Hello, everybody. This is Gunarchic Awakening. I wanted to take a little bit of time to flesh out my perspective regarding some of the comments I recently posted. The reason why, I mean, it's an amazing disparity between certain groups. Like one group, like nothing but support, nothing but, so far what seems like comments that are affirming it, respecting it, understanding it are on that side of the fence. And then you have other people who have a completely different take on it. I do find these genuinely fascinating because it opens up a kind of door to something that I don't tolerate. But I wanted to explain my intolerance because I am not like one of those individuals that's like, oh, we need to tolerate everything and everyone, blah, blah, blah. Mm-mm. No, no. I don't play that game. When you play the game called the Paradox of Tolerance, it eats you alive. The Paradox of Tolerance is essentially a snake that eats itself. There is no need, no rational justification for engaging in that kind of we need to tolerate everything and everyone ideology like 100%. uh no. So I didn't read the whole comment, but one thing that stood out, like a few things stood out to me. First of all, it came across like this is an incel apologist. So, I mean, to me, your first reaction to hearing or reading about a guy planning to kill 3,000 women, essentially committing a sex-based violence version of a 9/11 attack, like the equivalent of one, your first reaction should be horror. But instead, it's like, I'm going to go on the attack against you and defend these people's rights, even though these people are planning to kill mass scores of individuals. And one of the opening statements, opening question was like, how do we define an involuntary celibate? I mean, this is just an incredibly stupid question. They self identify as incels. They are calling themselves these names. They are getting together in chats, talking and trying to encourage each other to kill women and girls. This is the shit that they do. They plan these attacks. They use dehumanizing language and degrade women in their content. This is not a simple case of, well, we can just arbitrarily decide who is and who isn't an incel. Again, this has nothing to do with factual reality. This is when I was talking about, branding these people as terrorists and having the government brand them as terrorists, we're not seeking to slap the label onto anybody. I mean, again, where the fuck do you even get this shit? We are specifically talking about individuals who self-identify as incels. And this is how I knew this person was an apologist, saying, "Oh, it's just a person who's just involuntary." No, it's not just a person. It's not just a person who identifies that. That's a fucking lie. Words are not independent of social context. Their value is not independent of social context. Because if it was, an incel would carry the same value as somebody who says they're single, but they're not single. And it was really weird when you're bringing up women in the same comment, saying women are not the problem here. It's the guy threatening to do 9/11 style sex violence terrorist attacks that's the issue here. Words are not independent of social context. But what is the social context? See, I'm a single man. I have never had sex before. I've had opportunities. I've had women in my life who were either planning to do that with me or probably thought about it. I know one for sure did. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't plan terrorist attacks because I wasn't getting laid. So You trying to say that, oh, I can just slap it onto you. No, you can't because I'm a single man. But saying that you're an incel, it's not as simple as just using words interchangeably and saying, "Oh, it's like saying women but with YN." No, it's not. These people who identify as incels, anytime this word is used, it immediately creates an association with not only the way they talk about women, they plan to attack women, but the attacks they do carry out against them. Incel is not simply a case of a denotative definition that can be applied strictly within a person's personal identity. They are creating a social identity and aggrieved status from which they use to justify their violence against society and other people. Now, to me, what would be really fucking Orwellian, and actually, no, not just that, but really, I mean, throw that word out the window because I'm tired of people abusing that word. What's really fucked up is that when we had 3,000 people attacked on 9/11, the country went to war against, I think, at least two nations. It did a lot of damage. You could understand the anger and the hate. I remember my father talking to me about it. I remember other people talking to me about how angry they were. And I remember how angry the people were. And I was just a kid. And I remembered this. I internalized this. And it's so shocking to me that when the potential for the same type of act is carried out against women, what do these people do? Oh, no, no, no. We don't value women highly enough to defend them. But, oh, it's your freedom that needs to be protected. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your freedom to claim some kind of aggrieved victim status and then use that as the justification for mass murder events. And it's not just against women and girls. If you pay attention to the situation with terrorists like you know who, I'm not going to mention his name here, but the guy who went around stabbing and shooting people, they don't just target women. They project their problems onto society and they attack society's civilian population. So the idea that we just have to not treat them as terrorists when their tactics are those of terrorists, when they act like terrorists, when they are attempting to terrorize the population into giving them whatever the fuck it is that they want, whether it's sex or attention or whatever. Because remember, these are narcissists. They can't accept responsibility for why they can't form relationships or hold on to them or have sex, whatever. So they have to externalize the blame onto everybody else. So saying that it's just a word and it just means this, that's all there is to it. No. If that were the case, then it wouldn't be a social status. It wouldn't be a means for which all these men claim victimhood, organize, coordinate with each other, and then go out and attack their targets. So that's bullshit. That's not the full truth of the matter here. I'm a single man. I would never call myself any of those words because those words are associated with misogynistic ideologies. The very word itself is not only associated with the ideologies, it's associated with their actions. You don't get to just somehow reclaim a word after it's been this fucking bastardized. And see, the difference between being single and being an incel is that when people talk about being single, it's not necessarily an aggrieved status word. Some people love being single. Some people don't want relationships. They feel like they're better off on their own. This is across the board for men and women. They'll tell you. It's like, no, I've seen stories on both ways saying they're fine. They're not identifying as people walking away. They're not saying that they're involuntarily celibate. They're not doing any of that shit. So saying that you're single doesn't necessarily apply an aggrieved status the way an incel does. The incel word itself generates the aggrieved status because you can't get laid, and they make it seem like, oh, it's not our fault. They got to claim victimhood. Their language is literally rooted in victimhood. And so, because of that, they get hateful, they get angry, and I guess they want us to sympathize. No, I'm not going to sympathize with these motherfuckers. So no matter how often you people try to play these games and try to say, oh, this is just see it as a definition. I can't just see it as a definition because these individuals won't allow that. If you say you're single to me, I'm not going to think in the back of my head, oh, he has some kind of black pill, crazy ass ideology that revolves killing women or talking about, I don't know, like, if only we had like artificial wombs, we could kill off women as a group. Like this is the kind of shit they talk about. This is the kind of shit that goes through their heads. When somebody says they're single to me, I don't think that they're doing that in the back of their head. But when you talk about incel shit, well, that's a different story, because not only is incel a word that these people use to describe themselves to amplify their victimhood status, but to connect with other people of the same victimhood status. In other words, they created and they sustain this language in order to connect with other men that think and act like them. And then they go around doing their fucked up shit. So to act like this is just a word and not a means to collect, organize, and coordinate misogynistic attacks against women and girls, that's bullshit. So no, it's not just a word to me, and I'm not going to just treat it like it's a simple word. Social context and how words are used in social context in society do matter, because they do provide value for how we ought to perceive these words. When somebody tells me that they're just having, that they're having some kind of personal issue, or they're taking a break or whatever, I don't assume anything. But if you tell me that you're an incel, if you say that to me, I automatically know that not only A, you want to be a victim and you are claiming victimhood, but B, that you are a potential danger to yourself and to everybody around you, because you are not going to accept responsibility for where you're at in life. And C, you will probably seek out other people, because misery loves company, who think and feel the same way you do, because at the end of the day, we're social creatures, and so we seek out validation for our beliefs and opinions. And so these people seek each other out, and what do? They talk about how much they hate women and all this other bullshit. And I know, because a long time ago, I was in a hate group, and I used to read your comments. So when you try to play games like this, and you try to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, when I was there during the formation of these fucked up groups, when I saw their rise, when I saw how they evolved, don't give me that shit. Don't tell me it's just a fucking word, and don't fucking ever dare say I'm being irresponsible by calling for them being branded terrorist group. It's long overdue. It may not be directed at a government. It may not be directed at an institution. But one thing that is factually correct is that these individuals are escalating their violence. They have become more violent over time. They have considered more drastic action. They have considered targeting more people in the population. I'm not going to simply relegate or assign them any kind of innocence. I'm not going to try to treat them as if they're sympathetic, as if they deserve sympathy. You don't deserve sympathy and empathy because you can't get laid. That's fucking stupid. I don't give a shit if you can't get laid or not. That's one part of life. And some people like to blow that way out of proportion, because in the end, the truth is, they want to control women. They want to control every aspect of their lives. It's not enough for them to just have sex, no matter what they say. This is just the means by which they achieve whatever other fucked up goals they have. So I don't want to hear this shit about, yeah, they're like this and they're like that, and it's just a word and it's not a big deal. I'm like, yes, it is a big deal. I don't want to hear this bullshit. Words do matter within a social context. They will always matter within a social context. And I guess that's something that really fucks with these people too. The ones who are defending these individuals, because the last time I checked, when did a gynecologist go around saying, you know what, let's actually engineer a fucking virus to kill all men or to reduce men to like 10% of the population? When did they act? When did when did we as a group seriously get behind that? We didn't. That's like we have this. Sometimes you'll have that rare individual who says fucked up shit, but most of the time we're advocating for peaceful solutions to these problems. So that, the label of gynarchy and of that of gynarchists is easily defended because the social contexts that we choose to use these words in and that we choose to be part of are peaceful in nature. We are not inciting violence against anybody. But when you, like, even before the days of incels, there were certain red pill groups that would say shit like, why aren't there more bodies in the streets? So, and we know what happened to some of those individuals who were in those groups. They became incels. So if you are trying to tell me that I should just see a word as a word and disconnect it from all of the experiences I've had as a young man up until the present point, I can't do that. And I would not expect anybody else who logically thinks and who knows who these people are and how threatening are. The most dangerous thing about them is that they have an ends justifies the means ideology. That's the real problem. The real problem with them is that there is no endpoint that they won't run for as long as they think it gets them what they want. That's why they have to be dealt with. If you think an incel wouldn't be able to justify a nuclear assault if they thought it meant they could get laid or people like them could get laid, then you don't understand the mentality of an extremist. So, and also talking about registries, like how would we do that? It's simple. They self-identify like this. They tell people, like, if it's just some single dude and he's keeping these thoughts to himself and he's not doing anything, as long as he's not harming anybody, I don't give a shit. But that's not what they're doing. They're getting on the internet. They're trying to coordinate assaults against women and girls. They try to talk each other into killing women and girls. They regularly hate on them. And some of them want to plan 9/11 style terrorist attacks. We know because we have the evidence. And I guess maybe that's what really burns these people up inside, is that all they can point to is, all they can really defend anything on is freedom. It's always freedom, right? It's never about the social consequences of the language that they're using or the contexts in which they're using them. That doesn't matter to these people. Apparently, it also doesn't matter that they're planning 9/11 style terrorist attacks and have been since 2001, maybe even earlier than that. No, I think it's really telling what you focus on instead of all that crazy shit is, oh, we need to be more concerned with the freedom of these individuals. No, I don't give a fuck. See, I don't have to play these games because I'm not a feminist. I'm a gynarchist. I am unapologetically for the safety, health, and well-being of women and girls. And if at some point we have to put our foot down as a community and decide, what are we for? Are we for the protection, the safety, and the well-being of women and girls? Yes or no? Because at some point, I can't speak for other people, but I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of, like, it's always about men's verbal freedoms. It's always about this or that. It's not about how can we hold them accountable for the fucked up shit that they do. Must we always wait until they carry these attacks out? That's the other thing that's so insidious about this, is our intentions are not to randomly target men that we just don't like. That's not what's going on here. We are trying to give people in law enforcement and political communities the tools that they need to prevent these atrocities from taking place, because they don't happen out of thin air. These individuals talk themselves into doing it. They talk other people into doing it. They validate their hatred. And when somebody feels like they're being pumped up, they're being pushed into it psychologically, or they are building themselves up to it, sooner or later, somebody does something. And that's the real problem with the word. It's not just what it means, it's how people are using that language. What is the long-term ramification of the use of that language, and how is that language coming to affect women and girls as well as the general publics? So yes, I certainly hope that all the nations of the world declare them as terrorists so that they can be dealt with appropriately before they kill thousands of people, before they escalate and use even more deadly tactics against the general public, because that's what they're aiming to do. This isn't curtailing freedoms for the sake of curtailing freedoms. This isn't being, quote, Orwellian for the sake of being Orwellian. This is protecting citizens from a very serious threat, from a group of people who are showing that it's not enough just to kill 10 or 15 people, that they become even hungrier, greedier, more malevolent. Like, these are basically the equivalent of DC/Marvel villains. These are like the dark sides of the human species. These are the Lex Luthors of society. This is what we're trying to deal with. And, if somebody, like, if I get tired of this whole, like, slippery slope shit, like, well, you can just randomly declare anybody this. No. And we never said we were doing that. But when a guy's going around saying, I'm an incel, and he starts saying he hates women, blah, 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 and then he starts talking with his buddies and saying, oh, you're like this too, blah, 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 and then sooner or later, like, you know what, you shouldn't kill yourself, you should kill women instead, which is what they say. They will say shit like this. And then sooner or later, somebody's like, you know what, I think I'm going to stockpile weapons and go and commit a mass murder. That's what they do. It's about the buildup. It's in that language that we're talking about. That is the way in which these people connect. Now, language is the great connector. I'm a gynerchist. I connect with other gynerchists. I use the lexicon of gynerarchy. But you know what I'm not doing? I'm not talking about advocating for the mass murder of men. You know what's interesting in all this conversation? The only thing I want these people to do, I just want to remove them from society and put them in either rehabilitation centers or prison. I don't want to kill these people. I just want to stop them from killing others. And if you think that somehow I'm as bad as them, or that we're as bad as them because we want to prevent these atrocities by using whatever legal means are necessary, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're on a different planet. You have different things that you value and different priorities. And I'm not going to say what you value is inherently right or wrong, but it does tell a very, very clear picture of what you care about. Because as far as I'm concerned, whatever trick in the book it takes to get law enforcement, politicians, the people who run this world, who run these countries, to stop these individuals before they do Joker level shit, before they start putting bodies in morgues, before they make a mockery of life, before they denigrate and destroy everything we care about, the people. We have to do what's necessary in the face of such a threat. And it's not a normal threat, because normal threats can be dealt with accordingly. You got a guy who kills somebody because of revenge against a specific person. You at least understand the nature of that violence because you know where its limit is at. Where is the limit to this kind of violence that we are talking about as it relates to incels? Where are they going to draw the line on what they are willing to do to get what they want? When is it going to stop? Is it going to stop at burning communities to the ground, lighting them on fire, especially in the age of global heating when things are getting worse, when fires do more damage now than they've done in the past? Is it going to stop when they've poisoned, community, like food, water? If you think they're not capable of this shit, then you don't know them. I mean, what is the moral difference between shooting 3,000 people and poisoning 3,000 people? Same thing with dropping bombs or getting together into murder squads or whatever. All of these things are real possibilities that they could entertain. And if they're going to go that route, Why shouldn't we treat them the same way we treat Al Qaeda? And I think that really is the best way to cut it at the core of it. Al Qaeda does a fucking terrorist attack, kills 3,000 people. Obviously, we start going after certain demographics because that's where the terrorists are coming from. It's understandable. It's logical. But wait a second. So if incels start doing 9/11 style terrorist attacks, we shouldn't profile them. We shouldn't put them on a registry. We shouldn't be doing whatever it takes to declare them as a terrorist group and to remove them from society before they fuck us all up. Okay, whatever, man. You have your way of things. I really don't think it'll turn out too well. But in the meantime, I certainly hope we find some way to get them on a terrorist watch list. We can find some way to put them behind bars before they can do even further. Because remember, the aggrieved status of they have, they're not just claiming that they're victims, that they're being punished by women, blah blah blah. It's not just that. It's their victim status. The people they blame, it will be society. They're going to take it out on society. So how much longer can we tolerate it? How much longer can we afford to not have them labeled as terrorists when their aims are directed not only at women, but the general public? Their acts. Hope you have a great night. Please take care, everybody. I'm going to go to bed.